ರಾಕಿ ಬಾಯಿ ಕೇಳಿಸಿದ್ಯಾ? KGF ರಾಕಿ.
Very good evening, everyone. So, okay. What do you understand by personality? How do you define personality? Character. Now, what is the difference between character and personality? Character is something which is depicted through one's actions and words, behavior, attitude. Okay. Personality? Okay. It is sum total of your, she's saying, values, qualities, character, behavior, attitude. So it is basically sum total of everything that you possess, right? So that is your being, and there are many ways to express yourself, reveal traits of your personality, and unfortunately, in this UPSC examination, the major focus of almost majority of the aspirants is to learn constantly. There is a race to know more and more stuff. And even during the interview preparation, I have seen people making notes, learning more, reading more newspapers, and trying to remember lots of stuff. And there is less focus on their personality, in the sense that how do you express the things you possess, right? The various aspects of your personality. So in UPSC, the interview board consisting of 5 highly experienced individuals. They are very curious, keen, and I believe deeply interested, right? Any candidate who walks into the interview hall, interview room, and they have a sole purpose to assess you, evaluate you, and then select you for the one of the most responsible job or post. And in doing so, while that is the purpose, right, I think most of the candidates disappoint them, right, when they are in the process of evaluating and assessing you. Most of the candidates disappoint them. On an average, there are 8 to 10 candidates who walk in in a particular board, and 1 or 2 candidates might get 200 plus, and majority of them end up getting between maybe 120 to 200 or 160 to 200, in that range. So when you walk into the interview hall, so one expectation, even when I conduct mock interview, I will have lots of DAPs with me. So on that day, maybe around 6 to 8 mocks are scheduled. Sometimes when I go to Delhi, it is like 12 to 14 mocks. And even before the candidate walks in, I go through all the DAPs. I'm very curious, who are these individuals, right? who are they? When I say who are they, what is their background? Education, their parents, their place, the culture they come from, the state, language, caste, community, religion. And in addition to all these things, the most important, something that they consciously might have tried to add many dimensions to their personality over a period of years during their education, during their preparation time. They might have pursued something beyond their comfort zone, beyond academics, to add extra layers to their personality, we can say, extra depth to their personality, or we can say extra dimensions to their personality. So, as we know, that is reflected in the achievement section, scholarship, sports, leadership, and extracurricular hobbies and interest. So, usually I start from there actually. So, I directly open that and then I go to the education section, the discipline, engineering, medicine, whatever it is, and then have they pursued post graduation, have they pursued any other extra internship, any other extra courses, certificate courses, something like that. So there is uh, lots of curiosity, right? And that curiosity in my case, so I am not here to select you for a job, right? So I am here to assess you and guide you, right? Mentor you so that you perform better in the actual interview, right? So here I am curious to engage you deeply, right? So will I be able to engage you, uh, you know, without getting bored, right? Can I ask lots of diverse questions, right? Can I, while asking a question based on your response, can I go on engaging you on that particular topic further and further? So that is the expectation that I have, right? And when I see the DAF, I am looking for leads. When I look at your DAF, I am looking for such leads. Let us say you might have mentioned, you are keen enthusiast of modern art or something like that, right? Or maybe you like to visit museums. One of the hobbies could be visiting museums, exploring museums across the country or cities or something. Suddenly, when I see the word museum, right, there are so many things. I have visited many museums myself, right? So recently, I visited. There is a car museum in Mysore, right? So when I was in Delhi, I have frequently visited the National Museum, right? The museum that is there in the Red Fort, many more. The Prime Minister's museum, right? So the moment I see the word museum, there is my own experience, right? Something over a period of years, whatever I have accumulated, the knowledge about museums, and my recent experiences. And then there is also the museum might have figured in news recently in some form, right? So currently I might have read and in depth, I might have analyzed an issue also. So that is also there, that thought is also there. So when you come and sit in front of me for the mock interview, so the conversation might start with the museum because it is one small thread that is more connected between you and me in that moment, more relatable between you and me, right? So can we create such kind of say commonalities or points of interest where something can evoke more interest in you? And I see most of the dApps will have. I was evaluating essay before coming here, right? I get fed up while evaluating essay because I see the same examples, right? Now Viktor Frankl is everywhere nowadays. Viktor Frankl, Viktor Frankl. 3 years ago, Viktor Frankl was not there, right? Again, I have started seeing, the Plato's allegory of caves. Suddenly, many people are writing this particular. I don't know why. Maybe a teacher might have told, a topper might have talked about it. Suddenly, it becomes common example, right? So earlier days, again, even now people write Thomas Alva Edison example, right? So as many times he failed, those many times or more than that times I have seen his example in lots of essays. So similarly in DAV, I see the same meditation, cooking, cricket, right? Maybe jogging, watching movies, watching series. Now, how do I get interested in this individual? Right. Anyway, I have to do the interview when I have to engage you, right? Because I should know you to evaluate you. So I should start having some kind of conversation. But majority of the aspirants forget this crucial aspect, right? There is a human element in it, and there is a human interest in you, and it is not a mechanical exercise. It is not your mains examination. It is not like your preliminary examination, right? So you are going to have a really open, meaningful, intellectual conversation with the board. That is the expectation, right? And at the core of it, honesty is must, right? And that is there in the syllabus, intellectual integrity, right? So that is very much part of the expectation. That is also there in the notification that is mentioned. And when I am unaware of all these expectations from the board, the way I design my DAF, right, the way I prepare for the interview, right, is broadly or more guided or influenced by your prelims and mains preparation, right? There is that continuity. The way you used to prepare for mains, so that influences your preparation for the interview as well. If you are not experienced, if you are inexperienced, if you haven't given any interview before, so this is how it influences. But I have seen people who have given interview and then repeating the same mistake, right? Repeating the same mistake of making notes, uh, generating lots of questions, nowadays generating lots of answers also from chat gpt, right? And trying to prepare model answers. In the real interview doesn't happen that way. It is in that moment, right? In that moment, how adaptable you are, how smart you are, right? And how intelligent you are, how smart, how intelligent, in that moment your ability to generate meaningful response, exact, according to the demand of the question in that moment, that is what decides the ultimate marks. Last year there was a candidate in his ninth attempt, ended up scoring 209 or something, graduate from national law school. Now we have these you know biases or misconceived notions, right? That a large number of attempts or age factor or a lack of certain academic achievements, right? Or some kind of the things, achievements, big achievements, and not studying in a very good institution, they all influence my marks. So we have these notions. So it is not true in the interview. They are there, they definitely influence the initial impression. So before conducting the interview, so that is it actually creates expectations. When you are a graduate from, let's say, IIT, IIM, maybe Lady Shriram College, maybe National Institute of Design, maybe somebody rarely, I have seen students from NIFT also, and then NST, maybe National School of Drama, somebody, and then you have DU, JNU, good amount of universities. And I've seen people from University of Oxford, Harvard, some California Institute of Technology, something like that. Very rarely, now and then. Stephens. So they may, right, they may create lots of expectations. But in those cases where people have graduated from government first grade college, maybe regional language medium, not so reputed institutions, it is not that they don't evoke any interest or generate expectation. But I've seen people, creating lots of expectation and then disappointing. And people not creating any expectation here, but exceeding the expectation. So this is more about how you respond in those moments. So you might have come from lots of good academic and extracurricular background, but if you haven't continued those hobbies and extracurriculars, let us say during the preparation time, it might impact. And then during the preparation time, you might have added lots of, you know, uh, other factors into your personality, negativity, right? And self expectations, right? So you want to achieve this goal at any cost. So they might also influence how you conduct yourself in that moment on that day. So the some of the brilliant students have melted, in the interview. They have become very nervous, sweated, and have walked out with 120, 130 marks also. And then there are raw people, they are very confident, right? Irrespective of their knowledge level, they are very confident. They have walked out with 170, 180 with not so good performance also. No, but at the end of the day, it's about in that very moment, when particular question is asked, right? Your ability to coherently articulate, prioritize, the points from most important to the least important, and ability to generate leads. I mean, not intentionally, not consciously, but by virtue of the quality in your answer, you're providing lots of opportunities for the board. No, lots of discussion points in every answer. Because you have acquired that kind of depth, because you are thoughtful, you have the ability to think critically, analytically, and over a period of time you have acquired it. Right. When you want to convey something, when you want to say something, you don't want to just say the obvious. You want to convey something meaningful. So that should lead to some discussion. So if it is habitual, if it is part of your daily routine, and you have become accustomed to such kind of thinking, so there you will be very successful. Even for a very routine, normal question, like for example, introduce yourself. Right? People give very mechanical answer. So can I ask here, someone like introduce yourself? Hmm? Yes, introduce yourself. Yes, you only. Vinay? Yes. Hmm.
My name is Raghav. I'm, I'm from Bangalore only. I studied in Bangalore. I did my graduation. I'm from Automobile College. And my interests are in Formula One racing and wildlife photography. And I used to play cricket in college every day.
Okay. Hmm. Your neighbor. Yes.
Studied engineering in IAS College of Engineering in Bangalore. Yeah, my hobbies are watching historical documentaries and researching recent technology like quantum.
Okay. So both of you talked, I mean, started with your name, and then place, academics, and then in the end, hobbies, right? So you mentioned your respective hobbies. Okay, good. So you, Green.
Completed my secondary school education in St. Joseph School, and I have completed my bachelor's of business administration in Vidyasamita College and at the University of Mysore. And my key interested towards dancing and also writing essays.
Okay. Okay. Who would like to introduce themselves here? Yaradru? Yeah, you tell me now. Hmm?
I have done my master's in biotechnology and I'm working studying in CSIR IGIB till last year. So I recently quit for preparing for this UPSC examination. My hobbies are Italian cooking with vegetarian adaptations, travel, budget traveling, and aesthetic journey.
Okay. Yes.
Good evening, sir. My name is Kundan Kumar. I'm from Bihar. My graduation from National Institute of Technology, Surat. I'm working as a faculty in coaching institute named IAS2. My interests are knowing the developments regarding the quantum computing and artificial intelligence.
Yes, Shreya.
My name is Shreya. I like to describe myself as an enthusiastic and an inquisitive individual. And I've completed my bachelor in technology and information technology. Post that I worked for 1 year. And my hobbies are trekking and strength training. And apart from that, I like to research about the effects of exercise on how it affects our brain.
Okay, so in all these introduction, now we had 6 introductions introducing themselves. So I'll just ask all of you, the general audience here. So which one you found more interesting, or which one you liked most? No, whose introduction you liked most? Whose? Hers. Okay. What about this side? Whose introduction you liked most? So this is first rank. So hers is first rank, sorry. Then? Which guy? Kundan. Kundan from Bihar. Yes. Okay, now why did you like her introduction? Okay, her way of expression. Then? Interesting hobby. The hobby evoked interest in you. You liked the hobby part. Okay. Then? Her background. So she comes with some experience. Right. CSIR. Again, that again evoked interest. Okay, good. Then? What else? Yes? Clarity. Okay, it was very clear. The articulation was clear. Okay. So there are many factors. Yes. So, but again, I am still not fully satisfied myself. Yes. One, she started with saying good evening. Right. So those guys didn't address. Right. If it was my second, third question, you didn't have to do that. It was my first question. Right. So you always start by addressing the right, whoever it is. So you say good evening, good morning. So that is very important. That's a presence of mind. Right. So at what time it is? Sometimes it is in the morning, people say good evening. It is in the evening, people usually say good morning. I see when I'm coming up the step, doesn't matter what time I'm coming, I keep getting good morning. Right. So if somebody is there. So the presence of mind, that is important. And definitely clarity, right? And also conviction. When you are articulating something, there must be conviction. Again, conviction is born out of clarity. You have already thought about it multiple times, right? And you have pondered over, you have thought about it, right? And in your head, you have analyzed, and maybe you would have read lots about it. So when it has, if it is accumulated over a long period of time, right, both the experience and your thoughts about those experiences, then you will have more conviction in saying it. And if it is a recent thing, right, so then that conviction will be slightly low. And in addition to that, see, why I said I'm not fully satisfied. So you talked about your background, you addressed your experience, everything, but also there is always that there is missing personal touch to introducing yourself. For example, she said she is inquisitive and enthusiast, but that didn't match with your what you said in your rest of your answer. right? So in the end, researching slightly matched with when you said you were inquisitive, but there was no conviction in that. It was just a passing mention in the end. Got it? So something like that. That is very much. Uh, you can say you are passionate about Italian cooking. You don't have to say I am a passionate being or something. While talking about hobby, if you're truly passionate, you can say that. Maybe you can say use the word inquisitive, right? If you are truly are inquisitive, right? I think adding one or two personal touch, and if there is something very interesting about what you are doing, right? So that also can be conveyed. And you Kundan, you said you worked in Alan, right? So instead of mentioning Alan coaching institution, you should have been better. You taught physics, right? So before getting into civil services, I was a physics tutor, something that will evoke more interest. Physics tutor, right? And teacher as an experience. Instead of just saying the coaching institution, and because my attention will be deviated from this important thing to the coaching industry, right? So how you phrase your word, that is also important. So now, if that is the question, if that is the first question that is going to be asked in the real actual interview, you cannot give a very mechanical, uninteresting, uninspiring answer. There should be soul, there should be passion in that answer. As we discussed, conviction, clarity in that answer. And there is another question like, why IAS? So why do you want to become an IAS officer? Right. So this is one of the trickiest question, right? So all of you start with an aim to become IAS, IPS, but when we ask about this question in the interview, the answers are mostly mechanical, repetitive, right? Again, not inspiring. They always has these two words, diversity, security, right? Something like this. Can anybody tell me, like, can anybody give me a decent answer for why do you want to become an IAS officer? Who would like to give?
But barely lack is implementation. So, as an IAS officer, I need to implement those policies to the heart and soul of it, and then finally dwell into the policy making aspects.
Okay. So you want to become an IAS officer to implement policies. So anyway, that is the job role. I mean, you like it or don't like it, you are going to do that. Right. That is part of your job. But how you want to do it should be the part of your answer. Right. Because if you have noticed, or if yourself is a victim of certain injustice or something, right, might have learned few lessons in the by your exposure to the governance or government offices. So maybe you can combine that also. That answer again should be the answer where you introduced yourself. There should be some conviction, but conviction in this answer. Why you want to become IPS? Why you want to become an IAS officer? The answer should be so confident, should be so clear, should be passionate also. Again, passionate doesn't mean using all big words and all. Right. So I remember when I was preparing for the UPSC interview, there was one candidate who got all India rank when he was from Andhra Pradesh, and he was from IIT and IASC also. He was all India rank one in GATE and JAM and all these entrance examinations, and he also got all India rank one in this. Sorry, I'm forgetting his name. I remember his face. No. So it was 2005 or 6, I think. Right. So the panel asked why you wanted to become an IAS officer, and I had read his transcript in one of the magazines. So he gave the answer that he hailed from a small remote village. Small village. So which was disconnected with the the rest of the world because there was no bridge, there was a river flowing, between that is, I think, small island village or something. So he had extreme difficulty in going to school, and he had extreme difficulty in accessing healthcare or any facilities. So he said that because of those experiences, right? So he wanted to build bridges, right? Connect such places to the mainstream society and reach all these government benefits to the remotest places. So because of his experience and despite all that adversities, he went on to get all India rank one, in GATE and other things. So the panel could see consistency between his intention to become an IAS officer and the passion and the experience, the kind of hard work, the kind of hardships he had endured. So there was this consistency. So they believed him. I think they gave excellent marks in 225 or something. It was for 300 at that time. So and then he got All India rank 1. Now often what we do, we disassociate our answer, this why purpose, why IAS, from our own experiences, right? So we don't bring our experiences, we don't talk about why you really want to be an IAS officer. So there is most of the people, again, after passing the mains, after getting called for interview, then they start inventing, this answer, creating this answer. They write many times, they try to refine. Sometimes they send me, sir, is this answer correct for, why IAS? So I think it used to be a regular question, and sometimes even now that question is asked. It is not, again, that kind of question usually comes when they see a huge potential in you, right? This is one extreme. And if they sense that you are just, right, not yet prepared, right, maybe faking here and there. So then on the other end, this question can be asked, like why you want to become an IAS officer. Sometimes people put IPS, IFS also first. And there are three different requirements. When you say IAS, the answer should be specific to administrative service. IPS has a specific demand. Indian Foreign Service, I believe, is more specific, as well as the answer, the expectation is more than IAS, IPS. Because those who put Indian Foreign Service as their first choice, I have asked very simple questions to so many people. Forget about geopolitics and all these foreign affairs. The normal questions like, can you name 2-3 diplomats, right, who served in the during the period of Nehru or Indira Gandhi or something like this. So they will not know the history of diplomacy, the contribution of diplomats, right? Because those were the initial years, where India went through a lot, many wars, formative years of our foreign policy, right? So there were significant people who contributed. So they wouldn't have studied the very, the history of Indian diplomacy. So today itself I ordered, I had just, it happened to come. The name of the book is Diplomacy by Henry Kissinger. It is one of the seminal works, right? Henry Kissinger, the book is Diplomacy. I haven't read about it, I just read reviews. I happened to read. And then the thought is there now. Anybody who puts IFS first, I want to read this book and start asking, grilling them about more deeply about, diplomacy and foreign affairs. Because everywhere America, China is in news, right? So this is one thing. So in all these questions which are very personal to you, right? Why you want to be here? Who are you? Introduce yourself, right? When there is a you in the question, the answers, of course, every answer should have confidence and conviction. But these answers are where your true individuality is actually reflected, right? So other questions where your opinion is asked about, okay, Donald Trump wants to, let us say your hobby is architecture, right? Reading about architecture. Now he has destroyed the east wing of the White House, and he wants to build a $270 million ballroom, right? To entertain the guests, to engage the foreign dignitaries who come. You are aware of this news, right? He just destroyed, that heritage building, the White House, the east wing of White House. Now there is a big plan. He has revealed all gold color inside. The way his penthouse is there, in the Trump Tower. So there can be a immediate question about about what is the type of architecture. What do you think about this? Was it correct to destroy, right, a part of the heritage? So these are why, how we can ask, you can tell your opinion. Still, it is more of, let us say, you are going to say what is already there, right? Our opinion, right? An analysis, a fact, right? But when the question is about you, right? The work you have done, sports you have played, hobbies you have pursued, right? So here the answers are more passionate, and it will be easily be distinguished, right, when these questions are asked. And these type of questions, where the questions are about issues, where the questions are about current affairs, I usually see people giving same lame answers, because your sources are limited. So you are reading the Hindu, you are reading Indian Express, maybe you are reading current affairs, you are asking ChatGPT to generate some content. The answers are mostly similar, because you haven't touched the analytical part of it. And I remember last year recommending, I've been doing this. I mean, recommending those who want to give interview every year, you should start preparation the very next day of the mains, and you should ideally read 4 newspapers, one a business daily, one 2 national dailies, maybe the Hindu and Indian Express, one a foreign publication. Any newspaper, it can be Guardian, Washington Post, New York Times, right? So these 4 are the must. In addition to that, weekly magazines, The Week, Outlook, India Today, fortnightly magazine like Frontline. It is like extremely like left, but it's okay. And then selectively, very selectively, magazines like EPW, right? And the Sunday supplements. People don't even touch Sunday newspaper, especially the supplement magazine. It helps a lot in essay writing as well as in giving better interview answers. Right? People ignore that part, because here you will see people sharing their experiences. The way they share their experiences, the way they share opinions, the way they share their thoughts, right? It will actually give you more clarity how to express yourself, how to think about certain issue or certain. There are book reviews also. So if you say that you've been reading books, they might ask about a book, right? So you will learn here how to talk about a book, right? So they were mentioning about quantum computing and quantum physics and all, right? So nowadays I am traveling here and there, and my favorite question is that what is macroscopic quantum tunneling? Macro. Hmm.
It goes beyond that, it will become a micro level of.
No, what is quantum tunneling?
Tunneling is like penetrating the something like wall outside the rigid wall. That is tunneling. It's tunneling without having any kind of space to go the ball to the other part of it. Like when we blow the air from our mouth, it is basically tunneled out. But if you close the mouth and still you are blowing the air, still the air is coming out of the mouth. That is tunneling, even though there is no space to come out. So it happens everywhere. Actually, it happens in photosynthesis. It happens in the fusion in the sun. So tunneling is everywhere. So what they did, those who have got Nobel Prize in 1985, somewhere around that, they discovered this part. They practically, what they did, that experimented and saw that okay, quantum tunneling is possible in the circuits also.
Good. So he's a physics student, so he has taught physics. So basically, at microscopic level, it is evident, visible everywhere. Now, what they did was they created an experiment where they showed, illustrated it at macroscopic level, right? So which resulted in the creation of the quantum chip, right? So the creation of quantum chip was the result of the research in this macroscopic quantum tunneling. So there is a theory and now there is a product. And now they want to create a quantum computer. And now they want to, I watched a video of Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA. So there are three things that he wants to introduce. I mean, three big initiatives. One is coming together of Nokia and NVIDIA to create 6G technology. They have introduced some new technologies into it. So technical guys will know it. Second one, AI and quantum computers. So using GPUs and quantum computers, creating some harmony between them. So these are technical things. And then Department of Energy US, and then there is a tie-up with the NVIDIA to maybe, I don't know, to provide energy to data centers or whatever it is. So this topic, I took it up because one of the most important aspect of interview, we were talking about individuality, personality, passion, everything. But if somebody wants to really award you more marks, in addition to being honest, showing clarity, conviction in all the questions, in another area where you can really score very high marks is how advanced is your knowledge, right? Up to that very moment, including the future implications, right? So it can be something that you have mentioned in the DAF, or it may be something outside the DAF also, right? So there may be, I have seen people like in the PUC, like in the +2, you would have mentioned chemistry, physics, maths, biology, right? Sometimes that can also result in basic questions in physics, chemistry, and biology also, right? So if something significant had taken place that day related to physics or chemistry, there are many chances that you might get a very basic question also, and also very advanced question. But if it is related to your hobby, like if you are mentioning quantum computing or something, so you have to be really very good, both technical aspects and also its applied aspects, and also the basics of it. Now, when you were talking about, I was like curious. Okay, I mean, you say we see it in photosynthesis, right? I can ask the basic, like, okay, so what is this quantum thing in photosynthesis?
Electrons are able to do the reactions exactly what they wanted. In chemical reactions, what happens that we do trials and errors. Basically, in chemical reactions, any chemical reactions that arises, we do the trials and errors. Then we generate certain kind of, this is the process. But what nature has done is that it has exactly designed certain process, that is photosynthesis reactions, carbon plus oxygen and sunlight and all. The exactly electrons are hitting the exact part to create the carbohydrate and oxygen part. This. So that is how they are just, in photosynthesis, what is happening exactly, electrons know where I have to go, which part I have to hit. So it's like a bullseye, hitting the bullseye. And nature is just doing like a flawlessness. So that is why the quantum computing is going to be a big thing.
What is quantum about it, I'm asking?
Quantum is like in the sir, like it's a small scale, very small scale. So very small scale, they are knowing that this is what I am going to
Okay,
do.
explain the difference between classical physics and quantum physics.
Classical comes with a class plus equal. There is a class. So entire arrangements of molecules are being classified in a one part. So it's a bigger chunk. Quantum goes in a much smaller part, like electron level. Like Feynman, he said that there is plenty of space in beneath. In 1959, he said that if we want to make a big transistor, we have to touch to the electron level. And that electron movement that is happening, that is the quantum world. 10 raised to the power minus 10, 10 raised to the power minus 9, and everything is completely bizarre. Something happens there. An electron knows that this is what I have to do in the photosynthesis.
Okay. I didn't understand, but it's okay. Good. Yeah.
They don't know how, where to go.
Let us not take physics class for. No, so what I watched a video. So there it was said that no one then an electron just escapes, and then it passes through certain barriers, right? That probability is very low, right? But if in quantum chip you have to keep doing it repeatedly. You want an electron to be in multiple places, right? If you want to have fast, yeah, multiples. If you want to have like really fast and large number of calculations, so to do that, to increase that probability, again you need to have certain materials, right, to correct the errors, right, to create such kind of things, something like that. So whatever it is. Now, if at all you say that quantum mechanics is your hobby, or reading about it, or writing about it, and then somewhere in the DAF, meditation is there, right? Meditation is also there. Now I will link. So you are very curious to answer again. So now I link, like what is the relationship between consciousness and quantum mechanics, or quantum physics. Yeah.
So same thing, like I will go with the crude form of the consciousness, that is something process is happening and we are responding. So how to relate with the quantum with the consciousness? Now the quantum world is working on the electron way. So whatever the electrons are doing, whatever process is arrangement is being done, it is creating certain kind of process, and that process making us to react on that. So that is kind of process is creating consciousness. So that is how the quantum process. Now, this is not the correct, exact explanation. The explanation is the quantum world works about the way you said that it works on the probability. Say full probability. We don't know which process is going to happen, but certain process happen. There is something called Dirac delta function, which works on the exactness of the process. Now, if you just think about me, like suppose you thought about me, there are so much possibility that you would have thought about you. Just ask me the two questions. One is the meditation and quantum physics. Now, the very idea of you talking to me with respect to quantum world is the probabilistic way. And that is what we think, and that what creates the consciousness as per me. And then we start responding accordingly.
Okay, good. Again, I didn't understand, but it sounded nice. Good. Yeah. So why I was asking, there were two things I wanted to convey, with this question. One, as I already discussed about, the advanced understanding and its application. Second, the very basics of it. Can you articulate the basics with equal clarity as you can articulate its application part? Sometimes what happens, we get carried away. The applied part, advanced part, we are so much updated. We have lots of knowledge. And then we lack the very basic things, right? So that inconsistency, that should not happen in the real interview. Your basics must be as clear, as strong as your understanding of its application or implications, right? See, and its advanced technologies. That's very important, because sometimes we do well in this part and we are very confident, but sometimes it may happen. Knowingly or unknowingly, they can just ask a very basic question, and if you don't answer, it is not that they are going to judge you poorly, badly, because you didn't answer a very basic question. When you answer an advanced question with authoritatively, with lots of confidence, and when you fail in this basic question, you yourself will kill your own confidence in that very moment. Then you will feel very bad about it, right? When you don't know the very basics of it. So the preparation must combine the very basics of everything. Like if you come from medical science, doesn't mean that you have to go through all these. The basic questions, any educated individual, again, there is always a context to ask a basic question. It is not that out of nowhere, out of context, they suddenly ask some random question. It can be a follow-up question. It is related to the current discussion that you are having about certain particular topic. So you will have more, confidence in answering these questions only when you have already thought about these. Now, if you noticed, like consciousness and quantum thing. Now, if I'm asking this question for the, if you are facing this question for the first time, right? Now, you have 40 to 50 seconds time, right, to answer that question. You cannot take like 2, 3, 4 minutes there. You have to clear your concepts, right? You have to bring these two concepts together, create, right, an intelligent answer. So to do this, it takes lots of time in real time, in the real actual interview. So that is why the third important point that I would like to convey is that whatever you want to perform, whatever you want to think in the actual real interview room, try to think about it multiple times now itself before going to the interview. So for that you have to weave a web around each and every topic, every keyword that is there in the DAF, in a way that there are 4 different types of questions that I have seen, right? 4 types of questions that usually candidates get in the largely 4 category of questions. So one is factual, right, or some conceptual question, like what kind of question, right? It can be related to your home place. It can be related to your optional academics, your hobbies. She said like Italian cuisine. So I can just like ask, okay, can you define like, what is Italian cuisine?
It has a blend of lot of spices and it shows the culture because Italian cuisine is not just one cuisine. It depends on the region. There's North Italian cuisine and South Italian cuisine. So it depends on the region. For instance, in the northern Italy, this cheese is more prominent, while in the southern Italy, there's more prominence of the tomatoes and basils. So Italian cuisine is just a way of cultural expression as per me.
So you started with the line that it is similar to Indian cuisine. That should not be the answer, right? The question was, what is Italian cuisine? I'm not asking with, it can come later in the second part of the answer. But the first part of the answer should have been the latter part of your answer, where you talked about the influence of local things, tomatoes. Maybe there may be influence of local geography, the Italian, Mediterranean, whatever it is. So the answer should be very specific. So this is what kind of question? It is more of factual, right? So within that you might try to include lots of details. Like for example, you wanted to convey that there Italy means it's a country from North Alps to the Mediterranean lake shape. You have lots of cultures within the Italy, and there is Sicily, like an island attached to Italy also. So they might have different cuisines within Italy also, from one geography to another geography. Coastal may be different, something near to the mountains maybe, we don't know. So try to include many details within the answer, show that you have really lots of details about that. So this is the what kind of question. Similarly, what is quantum computing? I asked the question. It is like defining. It's a concept question. It is a factual question. So these questions are usually sometimes icebreakers, right? So very simple questions intended to initiate maybe conversation, and sometimes interview starts with these questions and ends with these questions. When your answers are not inspiring, when your answers lack substance, when your answers lack details, when it lacks depth, the questions will become random. So now Italian, if the answer doesn't have many details, now I am clueless, like what to ask. Now I'll jump to, let's say, CSIR or DRDO, something like that. Now let's talk about CSIR, something like this. Now the second type of question is opinion based question, right? So there is an issue. Now they want to know, have you thought about it? Have you formulated your original opinion on the issue? This is very important. now I had the understanding, when the new government came in 2014 and till 2016-17, the members who were appointed during the UPA government were still serving. So the expectation, because started these mock interviews way back in 2013 and all, one could give boldly any liberal answer, right? So if the question was about, let's say, Citizenship Amendment Act, you want to oppose, yes, you oppose, but give the reasons. And then 16 passed, 17 happened. 18, 19, I saw a little trend where I felt that kind of answers were not encouraged. But then again, I was wrong. In 2020, 21, I started noticing that there is no bias in the interview process, right? Because I, when started analyzing, the answers of many students, but there are explicit questions. There are straightforward questions related to religion. There are straightforward questions related to the most controversial issues, right? But the expectation of the board is that it is not whether you are pro-government or against the government, right? Have you formulated your own opinion based on rational arguments, solid reasoning, right? Based on facts. So if you are just emotionally saying, right, you are opposing something or you are supporting something purely based on emotional, superficial reasoning, so then you are going to be severely punished, right? But you may disagree, but you should disagree with, again, conviction, but with lots of reasonings. But then there can be follow-up questions, right? So you are saying this is the reason. So don't you think there may be some lacunae in your, the reasoning? They might counter it. You should be ready to support. So opinion-based questions are very important. It is, in these questions, they will start knowing more about you, right? In the sense that the opinion, I talked about personal questions, but opinion question will also reveal about your thinking process, right? So your analytical thinking, critical thinking, they will show that, lots of effort behind that kind of thinking, how you have built your personality. Maybe lots of reading, lots of traveling, lots of exposure, right? Lots of discussions, lots of conversations. So that show that there is, again, depth to your personality. So opinion-based questions, now some people will say that, you have to say pro-government. And I truly believe that you don't, because some questions you may go against your conscience, right? When you just want to support the government. So then you might lack the reasoning power. So for any opinion where you have maximum number of justifications, right? Whatever be the question, if you have really maximum number of justifications where endlessly, almost, like, let them ask many questions, but you can still stick to your argument. So if you have that much depth in your knowledge, conviction, better to go with that opinion rather than don't try to appease them, right? So again, you will not have lots of justifications, right? When you just want to appease them, right? In normal politics, in normal administration, people will not ask why. Why are you praising me, right? People lack that courage. But in the interview, it is not praising them. You may be positively talking about something. They might ask lots of questions, why questions. So the next level question is this why question. Reasoning is very important. I think you include this with the second category only, opinion plus why question. The third question is the, as I was discussing earlier, the advanced application part, right? Application of knowledge, application of whatever, whatever you have filled in your DAF. This is very important, and any answer should be thoroughly updated. In fact, let us say your interview is on, let's say, January 15th. That morning, you must have read at least 4 to 5 newspapers thoroughly and go to the interview. Anything that has appeared in that morning, or maybe the previous night, because now the news is instant. You don't have to wait for the newspapers. It appears in Twitter, it appears in Instagram, it appears in WhatsApp groups, right? So you must be thoroughly updated till that moment. That is very, very important. And you have to carefully choose all your areas, whichever you have mentioned. So you have mentioned Italian cuisine. Now there is Italian keyword is there. We don't know how the discussion will happen and where it will take us. So that you have to think previously. So you can start with like what is Italian cuisine. So you mentioned about tomato, you mentioned about, so maybe you might mention about some places or something. Now expect another question, right? And then you also talked about the Indian comparison, right? There can be a comparison. So now from factual question, the moment I know that you have lots of things to offer, now I will move to opinion question. So now there's lots of influence of, let us say, Italian or Western food on Indian food culture. Do you think it has negatively impacted Indian culture or the health of Indians? So it is an opinion based question, right? So then opinion combined with maybe, again, I will ask why, the reasoning part. So then there is this application based question. Now you might have done lots of experiments, right? Innovations, right? Maybe if you watch like MasterChef kind of programs, right? So there may be new thing in the same. I'm not sure. I don't know about it. So you must be aware about it, right? The last type of question is the case study, right? Now this is the question where they will truly assess your personality. They will give you a random case, not random case study. They will give you, it's a well thought out case study, right? Based on your DAF, based on your answers. So they will identify a situation, will give you a clear cut role, right? And then they will want to know how you are going to handle that particular situation. So the context can be a recent current affairs, right? We have been seeing lots of stampedes in India, right? In Bangalore it happened recently, in Srikakulam it happened, and in we saw in Tamil Nadu where it was Kadalur. Karur, yes, Karur. So, like you may be made DC or maybe SP, right? And asked about, right, this situation, like how would you handle post or before, or maybe there is intelligence report that the organizers have claimed that 10,000 people are going to assemble, but intelligence says that 1 lakh people are going to assemble, right? So now what is going to be your course of action? What are you going to do? Are you going to cancel the event, or are you going to make more arrangements, or are you going to buy time and postpone it? We don't know. So now these questions will check your ability to take decisions then and there, based on solid understanding of administration, right? The reality that exists in the real physical world, right? The sociological understanding, mob psychology, right? So what exists in the real world? So you should have thorough understanding of the grassroots level realities. So based on that, you are going to give your solution, right? So within that, any innovative ideas are definitely appreciated. So there also we go and give, the way you write case study in the ethics papers, very mechanical answer. Now the answer should be intelligent, innovative, right? So you should be ready for that. So it starts with factual, opinion-based question, your understanding of, its applications, the updated knowledge, the advanced thing, the current thoughts, current knowledge, and then case study. So if at all the interview has moved in the direction of asking you reasoning questions, opinion questions, and then if they're asking you case study questions, you're already at the level of 180. You have reached that level. 180 is the minimum bar that you have already reached. Now they want to see if you can be given like 200, maybe highest marks 215, right? So they are giving you opportunities, right? So these opportunities open up by virtue of quality in our own answers, right? Honesty in our answer and the content, the ideas in our answers. So you provide yourself more opportunities, right? So then they will go on giving you more opportunities. So you have to do justice to these kind of questions. Now, if you're not prepared systematically, with these lines of thought, with this kind of preparation, so you will end up again giving a very lame mechanical answers, right? Opportunity comes to you, but you are not going to capitalize. You are not going to, right? So that is where the preparation matters a lot. So Raghav and Pavan. So and whenever you people have come, I've already warned you that you should start interview preparation as soon as possible, right? Your interview could be on the very first day, right? I think December last week, or when are they going to start? Maybe January first week, right? So there is 15 to 20 days gap usually after the result. That used to be the case. So last year I think it started. I'm not sure which date it started. In December only. Huh? January 9. When was the result? Okay. So how many days gap was there? Around a month to the interview, right? So you can expect the interview to start this year, maybe around December 15th or December 20th. So your interview could be the very first day on December 20th. Right. Now the question you have to ask is, are you prepared? Right. So now you have 1.5 month. Are you prepared for the interview? Right. This is very important. And those who haven't written main set, those who are yet to give your interview next year, this is a very important factor, very important aspect of the preparation. Majority people just ignore the interview part. And in all my orientations, everywhere I keep warning, I keep talking about it because it's very important. And I've already talked about the significance. 20 to 30 minutes conversation. Out of 275, you can walk out with 215 marks, right? The marks you score in, the highest marks you can score in 2 GS papers, right? Any 2 GS papers. So you can walk out with that many marks by having 20 to 25 minutes conversation, and it's going to make huge difference, right, to your preparation. And that is the most beautiful part of the preparation, examination process. You go to Delhi, you buy new suit, right? You decide the color, again, you people sari, everything, right? So you are ready for all these things, right? What about the mental preparation, right? When you go there, there should not be any iota of any panic, any anxiety when you go to the UPSC. So you should be very confident. You should be very confidence is the word. You should be very confident and well prepared. Confidence comes out of good preparation. So my suggestion is that start framing, what you want to put in DAF. I think they are going to give you an opportunity to edit. So for those who don't know, this year immediately after the prelims, those who wrote mains, they were made to fill their DAF details like hobbies and everything. So I think there is a confusion whether you will be allowed to edit them. So if you had mentioned football after prelims, now if you don't like football anymore, you cannot change football now, right? So if you mention quantum consciousness, no, assume good that you are conscious, that. So now, no, if at all you didn't like, if you feel like, lots of, somebody told you can change it, right? So somebody told, I think it was there in the, I don't know where it was there, you will be allowed to make modifications. I think that is a logical thing, right? I think the UPSC will allow that much flexibility where you can again maybe rephrase, refine your DAF. So I hope at least you have done that, right? If you haven't done that, that must be the first task you have to do it, right? You don't have to do it only after passing the mains, and when you see your name in the interview list, when the portal opens, right? Why can't you do it now? Do it now, like the final version, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to put, the final version, prepare it thoroughly. The second task is to start preparing on them in depth from all the dimensions. So you start with one question, there are two possibilities, right? So you give you start with one question, you give an answer, and if the answer is not detailed or not, honest, so if I find that answer is not honest, then there is a counter question to it, right? So I may counter the question, or if the reasoning is weak, then I might counter it. But if it lacks details, right, enough to motivate me to engage you further, then I might ask a follow-up question, right? So can you think more, right? So what about the another aspect of that particular question? So when there is counter question, when there is follow-up question. So you write a counter question. If the answer is weak, there is a counter question. If the answer is good, there is a follow-up question. And for follow-up question, again, there is another answer, right? So that answer will result in another question. Depends on the quality of your answer, right? So you have to think, and you have to, as I said, all these things should be pre-thought multiple times, right? But that doesn't mean that you are going to mechanically deliver that answer. You are not memorizing this answer, right? You have thought about it. And the core idea, right? The core part of the answer is already well thought about it. You are going to maybe rephrase it, but the core essence will remain the same. So don't write answer and don't try to memorize it, right? So the core essence must be retained. So then for that answer, there is another follow-up question. We don't know to what extent it can take you, right? But there is a method to it. So it cannot be random also. So then they may start linking it with other parts in the DAF. If two things can be logically linked within the DAF, right, then they will start linking with them. For example, you talked about which is your hobby? Italian. Your optional is public administration. Okay. And you talked about CSIR. Okay. And then what else is there in your DAF? You're from UP. Which part of UP? UP is a big country. Hmm? Hmm. West UP, Kanpur. Okay. So can you link Italian or budget traveling with something in the DAF? Maybe CSIR, Kanpur, UP. Oh, good. See. So Lucknow was declared as city of gastronomy. Okay. So yeah. So now it is linking. You might not notice also. Sometimes it can be subtle also. It can be very evident that the panel is doing this, right? So you have to frame that kind of questions. Something that is implied, subtle, something that is outrightly evident. So the question can be about the influence of food maybe on Kanpur culture. So Kanpur or Lucknow culture, Lucknow or Kanpur, Kanpur, yeah. So Kanpur influence on the food, right? The influence of local culture. It can be religion. It can be whatever it is. And the food, has Italian food influenced Kanpur? If it is not yet influenced, why not yet it has influenced, right, the food culture in Kanpur, something like that. So linking two things. It can be linking physics with something else, right? Two different things. So that interlinkages are very important, right? So I tend to do that. Again, sometimes I interlink things that are not there in the DAF, but that were there in your previous answers also, right? So you would have already given a previous answer, you have forgotten, you have given answer, right, forgotten. So I might link a later answer with the first answer or second answer that you had given, and then frame another new question. See the possibility from that perspective also. Very important thing in the interview is that this intellectual integrity, the consistency. You are given opinion for some other issue in the first question, right? But a related question comes later as part of the interview. There must be consistency in that opinion. You should never ever contradict yourself in the interview. That is the downfall. They will smile, they will appreciate a lot. When you walk out, you will see the marks that 130, 140, you will be thoroughly clueless. Unknowingly, subconsciously, you would have been judged as dishonest, right, intellectually, right? So, lacking intellectual integrity in that sense. So, you must be aware. That is why doing this exercise, you have to see for inconsistencies, right? So, you provide opinion or answer some analysis. So, you have to see that there is this consistency of thought. So, it believes, I mean, it depends on, that's what, how well you have thought about it multiple times, right? So, you should have clear-cut opinion, formulated opinion, clear-cut ideas, clear-cut vision also in some cases futuristic, that women related, women empowermented. These are three core aspects of your principles, your ideas. Whenever it comes to secularism, these are the things that you truly believe in, right? Whenever it comes to any religious issues, any issues with respect to nationalism, any issues with respect to language, right? You have got a clear-cut, well thought out answer, and then you know the reasons also. So then there never will be any kind of inconsistency. So this is very important. So only if you are preparing something for the first time, new topic, new question, and then you're not giving enough thought about it and jumping to another one, right? Merely superficially you are learning lots of details. So then what will happen? This inconsistency will be there unknowingly. So you'll become victim of this inconsistency. So that is why it's very important to have consistency. So for that, while framing all these questions, again, as I said, method, it starts with the DAF, right? If it is related to, the second thing is any current happenings, right? So then it can be linked with any current affair also, current event, or the recent, very recent past also. So that also you must be aware. So that is why reading multiple publications, multiple sources is very important, because you never know. Some hobby that is very unique to you might have figured in some news or something, some analysis, right? So you will get, one is they might ask question like that, or you might yourself might introduce such kind of linkages in your answers, right? So that will make your answer more deeper, right? So when you introduce such linkages, so that is why it is important to have diverse exposure currently, and also you have to have depth also. So another thing is you identify all important issues. Again, don't be biased. Again, don't let your mains influence while identifying all these important issues. So it has to be the interview imagination, the experience, that visualization, based on your DAF, based on your own personality. And 99.9% they will not ask these HR questions. What are your weaknesses? What are your strengths? I haven't seen many people, facing those. It has come. It is not that it has never come, such kind of questions. But you have to be prepared for them also. But don't spend too much of time on them. And I was talking about factual questions to opinion, reasoning question to applied question to the case study questions. If your answers are not inspiring, majority times, most of the times, it will end up with the factual questions, right? And it becomes random. You will feel like, my interview was random. They were asking, all these factual questions and all, right? So only if there is depth, you are going to be asked these questions step by step. So for that, merely preparing questions, preparing answers, keeping them ready either in your notebook or in your head is not sufficient. So real-time practice is must, compulsory. Because without articulating them, without practicing them, right, you are not going to perform. So I usually recommend one is group discussion, one-on-one marks. Before one-on-one mark and group discussion, you have to practice individually, right? For example, sit in front of a camera in selfie mode, pick up whatever questions you have prepared, and then try to give an answer. Like if it is factual questions, 5-10 seconds, right? If it is opinion-based questions, maybe opinion or reasoning question, like 30 to 40 seconds. 3 to 4 points. It can easily can be articulated in 30 to 40 seconds. So if it is a case study, 1 minute, maybe another 30 extra seconds, right? So sit in front of the camera and then give that answer, and then you yourself review the answer. Whether you have to eliminate all unnecessary parts in your answer. Sometimes unknowingly you will be using some keyword again and again. Okay. Something like this. Or some people have the habit of using some such kind of words. And then lots of ums, ah. No, even I used to have that kind of habit while talking about. So slowly and steadily trying to remove all those things. So while giving speech also, sometimes we give unnecessary, words like for example, right? When we are not able to think coherently, we use these words to fill the gaps, right? Right. This is another word. There are, I mean, when you observe yourself, because I have thought about these things. I know that I use these words now and then, right? I don't use often, right. I know I use that. So it is eliminated to large extent. Like that, you should perform in front of a camera and then see any words, unnecessary words you are using must be thoroughly eliminated. See that your expression is clear cut. There is a pause, there is a full stop, and then use of these connective words, transition words, however, moreover. So as we see in the recent context, sir. And then you can give references also. If you have read books or something, you can talk about them also. They will really love that kind of conversation, references to this and that. And if you can refer to your previous answer, if there is a related question in the interview conversation, again, that is also another bonus point. So like this, you will be able to, again, you will be conscious about it. Only when you consciously practice this from your comfort zone in the beginning. And then when you come here and start giving the mock interview, you will be again conscious about it. If you're already aware of these inconsistencies, mistakes, you will be conscious to not repeat such kind of things. So without practice, it is very difficult to articulate effectively. So clear and logical exposition, that is the key word that is there in the notification. Clear and logical exposition. It's very important. Clear and logical exposition. Your answer cannot be random. You cannot think of random point and put them randomly. It has to be logical. So all these will come only with practice. You cannot suddenly come, in front of the interviewer and start giving the refined version of your answer. You must practice. And then group discussion is very important. In group discussion, it's about, you should be mindful of what you are talking, the kind of words you are using, choice of words you are making. That is very important in group discussion. It should not be just random casual discussion. So if somebody asks a question, take your time. Many people don't give pause before giving the answer. There is no pause before giving the answer because you are anxious, maybe you are too eager to give an answer. As soon as the question is asked, you just start with something. At least 2 to 3 seconds, there must be a pause. Try to organize your ideas. And if you have seen some of the videos of Barack Obama, Steve Jobs, watch their videos, especially when they are interviewed. When there is a discussion, they take long pause before giving an answer because they are aware that every word they speak matters. Every word, every single wrong word can create a big issue. Not in the case of Donald Trump, but statesmen like people, right? Now this is a different species. I don't know like what happened. So he doesn't care. I mean, and people are liking him. People are relating to him because he is like us. Yes, it is actually happening. He is like me. I speak the way he speaks, and he doesn't have any fear. He represents me, right? He is my alter ego. He's my alter ego. He's my version there. So it's a new politics and new kind of, but it's very difficult to be like him, in public life. Very difficult. Doesn't know how he does that. Wherever he goes, I think because of having lots of power, he has that incentive. People just go along. They don't excuse him, they just go along with him because he's powerful. Speaking truth to the power. So it's very rare. I think I saw a recent interview where a lady journalist, I think there are 2-3 instances where they were speaking truth to the power, asking direct questions and also rebuking him when he was factually incorrect. But it's very rare. So coming back to the interview, multiple mock interviews, especially one-on-one mock interviews, are very important with any trusted mentor where you can be very honest, where you are willing to make mistakes, where you are willing to open up. It is not a real interview, it's not a panel kind of interview where you are very conscious. So try to be bold and try to talk your heart out, and we will be able to correct. Otherwise, if you keep filtering things, because we don't know why you are filtering your answer, on what basis, on what benchmark, on what kind of guidance you are trying to speak minimally, or on what basis you are trying to think to a certain extent. Who has guided? We are not aware of it. So I think better to experiment in one-on-one mocks. So we will tell if it is excess, we will tell it is too much. So I have had that kind of experience where 1 or 2 aspirants have intimidated us. They knew 10 times more than me, right? And lots of answer, lots of details. And certainly it would intimidate the panel also. It becomes like show off of lots of knowledge, right? It has to be according to the demand of the question, to the point, very specific, yet without losing the very essence, the very quality of engaging the listener, engaging the interviewer. You have to evoke interest in them. That must be the essence of the answer. So that kind of training, conditioning, right? So will happen when you start giving one-on-one marks. And then I usually send people myself to go to a panel interview later, whichever your choice, and then we get feedback which panel is good, either in Bangalore or in Delhi. So this time I'm going to conduct one-on-one mock interviews as well as panel mock interviews in Delhi Kannada Sangha. Right. So we will arrange for your accommodation. We'll be doing lots of mocks. All are welcome, Kannadigas and non-Kannadiga students. So there is an excellent facility. As soon as the result is out, we'll be doing those mocks. So any accommodation issue, any food issue in Delhi, just feel free to. Now I have like extra influence in compared to earlier times. So we can easily manage all those issues. And finally, I don't know when is your interview date. I don't know whether you're going to pass or fail, right? I hope all of you will pass. But for those of you who are still dreaming about giving prelims or mains interview, start interview preparation as soon as possible. It must be the routine part of your preparation, right? So the way exam is designed is very beautiful. You go there in that moment, 20 minutes you speak, right? It can be 40 minutes in some cases. Doesn't mean that long duration of discussion will ensure good number of marks. I have seen 40-minute discussion, 140, 150 marks also. And I believe for me, it was told by one of the best IPS officers Karnataka had. So you know that um, he died, no? It's Madhusud. Hmm? No. Madhukar Shetty, yes. So Madhukar Shetty, sir, like when I was in 2011, April, 2010 CSE was my last attempt. I was selected for the interview. I was in Karnataka Bhavan, and for some other work, he had come to Karnataka Bhavan, and he had, I think it is still the record. I'm not sure about it, the veracity about it. It is said that he had scored 245 marks in the interview. Till now, it is the highest marks for any candidate in the interview. So that rumor was there, everyone was talking about. So Madhukar Shetty sir is here, and he has the record of scoring highest interview marks. So myself and one of my friends, we went there. We wanted to have conversation. We wanted to get some tips. So he said in his room, he made us very down to earth, very polite, and yet very, firm, confident officer. He made us sit, and he told one thing that is still stays with me today. He said that when you walk inside the interview hall, you are already given 180 marks. It is decided. You stay silent, you walk out, 180 is there with you. You walk inside, 180 is your marks. The moment you open your mouth, from that moment onwards, it is 180 plus 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 or 180 minus minus minus. The choice is yours. And he talked about to make it plus the basic human qualities: being humble, being very confident. Being humble is not being submissive, right? You can be humble, yet you can be very confident, very assertive also. And honesty. It's very important. You should not fake, you should not show off. The extreme thing, very rarely people do, those who have got 80 or 90 marks, is arrogance. Knowingly or unknowingly, there is this arrogance that I am right. And they try to test it by sometimes intentionally countering your answer, intentionally telling wrong things also. They know that what they are saying is the wrong thing, and then they will tell you. Sometimes people, they want to just show off that they are correct and he is wrong. We have such kind of people, right? So they will outrightly tell. They won't say that you are wrong or something, but they will not know the way of telling it, because it's a interview panel, 5 people are there. So there are many cases where arrogance will result in the lowest marks. Dishonesty, the next lowest marks, as far as, because dishonesty, people are not like very intentionally dishonest in the real interview. It is unintentional sometimes, and unknowingly, maybe subconsciously, they come across as dishonest. So that is also like 120, 130. If you are honest, if you are humble, but if you are underconfident, around 140 to 150 marks. Your answers were decent enough, but again, when you are not confident, you cannot give good answers. You will not be able to articulate effectively. Underconfidence will never get you more than 150. Just normal factual questions, average answers around 160 marks. So 160 is rejection. 160 and below, you should take it as rejection only. 160 only if you have scored 800 plus in mains, then there is a chance that you might get some service. So otherwise, unlikely that you are going to get some service. So you have to be careful about it. So practice being confident. Confidence is always built. You cannot just do meditation and think that you are going to be confident. You build, block by block, the confidence. So by adding more knowledge, by adding more experience, wherever you think you are weak, directly facing it, such situations, such kind of people. If you are afraid of dealing with irritating people, pricks, right? Deal with them, talk with the pricks, be calm, smile, be like Buddha, right? If you get so much irritated interacting with people, those who boast, I am the best, I know everything, right? Such people are there in reading rooms here and there, will be there. So interact with them, let them boast, right? You don't get irritated. That is the essence here. So you have to expose yourself with variety of people, go outside, discuss with people, talk to people, and you go on adding so many things that will eventually build the confidence. So I don't think I was able to speak like this, let's say 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, or even like 6-7 years ago. Now give me mic, English, I'm speaking. Kannada has become super now. I can give big speech in Kannada, whether it is 1 lakh people, 2 lakh people, very powerful people, right? I've seen that transformation. Consciously, you can transform yourself. Doesn't matter you have 1 month period or 2 month period or 1 year with you. You can always transform your abilities, your individuality, your personality also. So it is a choice you make. So and then consciously we have to start aggressively working on that. Without working on it, if you are scared, if you are hiding that part, superficially engaging with something else that is satisfying you in this moment, right? We do that to escape from something that is difficult. We engage ourselves with certain momentary things now and then. So that issue remains unaddressed. If you think you lack something, you have to start facing them, start working on them. That's very important. So these are the things. I'm going to conduct mock interviews, these one-on-one mocks. So I think in few days we will open I think we have opened the registration. Before the result conducting mocks, I used to prefer, but out of 10, only 3 clear. So for 7, it's a good guidance, early guidance. But what? No business, I do free mocks. You wanted to say time. Yeah, time is very precious. That is the thing. So more likely, in another 1 week, we will start the one-on-one mocks. We'll just initially start with those who are studying here. Immediately after the result, aggressively, regularly, everyday basis, we'll do mock. We'll go to Delhi also. And then in Delhi, both we have institution there and also Delhi Kannada Sangha is there. Both one-on-one and as well as the panel mocks. So all the senior most Karnataka officials. So we'll invite them for the panel and we'll do the mock interviews. So these were the things I wanted to address in this session. Any doubts you might ask? You can ask. Regarding optional, for example, anthropology, I think I have already talked about this. Any living anthropologists, 99% people don't know. Now Jane Goodall is also dead. So sociology optional, I ask sociologists, no, not aware. And then similarly, those who have the habit of reading literature, I keep asking about, it's not just about the people, I want to know whether you are really curious. Did you study optional for the sake of studying optional? From the interview perspective, the basics of the optional subject as well as the current thoughts, the current research, advanced knowledge about the optional. So these two are must. So try to be updated with these things. And regarding the work, it is more about, the companies, not just again, there can be factual question, opinion-based questions. You can extrapolate them to larger ideas like capitalism, markets, democracy, capitalism. I have the habit of asking, linking to abstract concept or to important concept. For example, implication of artificial intelligence for democracy. I remember asking these questions in 21, 22 mock interviews. Now I see lots of articles coming on this, in many editorials. Like that, impact of what is the nature of capitalism currently? Big tech and capitalism. So major issues are there around the world. So try to interlink them. Try to understand how coming together of these two things, what kind of implications they will have. It is futuristic, but you must be aware of these futuristic implications. So thank you all. Emotional individual. Hmm.
Expecting him to his answer to be very rational. By default, he is an emotional individual. How can he take that or that he can give that it's being very rational?
Basically, how do you control your emotions while giving answer?
Such kind of questions.
It has happened. Like for example, if it is related to religion or nation, nationalism related questions, sometimes some people get agitated because some people live in echo chambers, and they believe certain thing to be true and deeply personal also. So then this might happen, but again, the purpose of the interview. You are not going there to make an argument, to prove you are more intelligent, you are more correct. It is a conversation. And in a conversation, you must always listen, you must always respect the other individual. So I think if you practice these, the very basic things, you will be more rational, because any emotional outburst or any emotional answer is also disrespect, will also result in many counter questions. It will take you to the negative territory. And choice of words is very important, because the moment you have used certain word, that can lead to some question. You should know which word to speak, which word you should not speak. Politicians do that nowadays. Usually politicians learn that, because you have to be very careful when you are speaking to variety of people, what to speak. So that kind of thinking you have to develop. Again, politicians speak. There is a phrase called politically correct. What is the meaning of politically correct? They say he is giving politically correct answer. Correct. Does not hurt the sentiments. Right. Does not hurt the sentiment. The answer is not genuine, honest, trying to balance something. Kind of diplomatic answer. So in interview, you should not give politically correct type of answers. Okay. And again, you have to practice that. If you're emotional, you should know which type of questions, which type of issues make you more emotional. And we have to work on them. Should not be emotional. Be like stoic like. Stoicism or stoic, what is stoicism only? What is stoicism? I know philosophy. What philosophy it is? What? Pattar ban jana. Stone like. Letting go things. Detachment. In Kannada ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಿ? ಎಮ್ಮೆ ಚರ್ಮ ಇರಬೇಕಾ? ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್. ದಪ್ಪ ಚರ್ಮ ಬೆಳೆಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್, ಎರಡು ಒಂದೇನದು. ಎಮ್ಮೆ ದಪ್ಪ ಚರ್ಮ. Yeah, see, that is again good question. So in interview answers, ideas are more important than the factual details. You should not explain an example, try to give more of factual details. That again becomes show off. So try to stick with the arguments part, because the panel is intelligent enough to understand the context or even the validation part of that. Second thing is that let us say they said the quantum thing. If there is a question about quantum, don't think that the board is illiterate or unaware of the technical details of quantum physics. Don't assume. Never assume. Never underestimate the board. Give answer as if they already are the experts in that particular field. Doesn't matter it is quantum physics or something related to space science, whatever it is, chemistry, whatever it is. You have to give answer in such a way that the board is already aware of. Otherwise, what happens? Some people tend to explain it to the board as if the board is not aware. So I'm going to explain it to you. You have to say like, as you are aware, sir. Say that, they are aware, as you know. This is the answer. So sometimes people tend to explain the concept. So quantum mechanics, it is defined as something like this. It is, for example, it is a very advanced concept of physics. You start something with like this in the interview. The board knows that it is advanced concept and they will know that. So you will try to say that, right? As if you are suddenly, your expert area is there. So question is asked from your expert area and now you want to become a boss in that. So we try to do that unknowingly. So try to avoid that also. Go technical. Some people recommend don't go technical. My suggestion, going technical doesn't mean that purely total technical. There is little explanation part, like explanation is not as you explain to your children or general audience. You're assuming they know it, but you're simplifying it. But yet the technical essence is very much there in the answer. Whether it is political science question, whether it is technology related question or optional related question. So you have to show that you have really learned a lot about that particular topic. And if it is from hobbies and extracurricular, it must be technical. For example, some people write, I remember one girl from Chennai, she had got 4 patents. Right, from IIT Madras, she had 4 patents to her name. And she had mentioned all these technical details. And I didn't know anything about it. I was asking question and I encouraged her to be more technical, even though I didn't know. And she was like purely technical. She got 198 or something. It was only one attempt, last attempt, she got IRSIT. But the board will appreciate. If it is there in the DAF, you have presented a technical paper, you have to sound technical. If they are not aware of it, they might ask you to explain. Again, when you are sounding technical, again, you should not sound like an expert. There must be humility. You should know the nuance, the difference between that, how you present, how you articulate your answer.
Self-preparation and she is not into peer groups, but still she is the exam and interview.
Did you hear her English?
She was in abroad.
See, she's a different individual. Totally, she's a different individual. During the podcast, I learned that she was raised in more than 7 or 8 countries, have met innumerable, the best people, right? The kind of interaction she had was with the best people, diplomats, businessmen, academicians, maybe politicians, those who would, think, who are experts. I think that kind of conditioning since childhood has prepared her for, the interview. Background is totally different. So we many times forget that. Somebody has scored highest marks in essay, we just try to copy. We don't see the background, from where they have come, what kind of education they had. Sometimes optional we take randomly. History, All India rank 1, now I'll take history. Philosophy, All India rank 1, now I'll also take philosophy optional. Right? These are all irrational decisions. So don't go with that. It is her individuality, her choice. So she is best with that, comfortable with that. So she has done well with that. But if you lack that kind of background, exposure, you should have peer group and discuss a lot. See, don't spend too much of time on these degree subjects and places and other stuff, factual stuff. As I said, the basics are important. The first semester basics, right? And the application, the currently what is happening, computer science, right? So in computer science field, what is happening that you must be aware. Don't spend too much time on that. Anyway, computer science is a very happening field. You must spend lots of time on that, definitely, right? AI and computer science, that kind of stuff. But if you're confident about yourself in engaging the board through good ideas, arguments, don't spend too much time on the factual stuff. And if you engage them on these things, it's okay to say you really don't know the answer. Honesty is always important. It can be very basic question also, some factual question. You can say you don't know. And most of the times, if they sense that in the very 2 to 3 minutes in the early part of the interview that you are really good with your stuff, all the details you have mentioned, they will not ask factual questions. They will not ask about your optional. They will not ask about your place, state, right? So most of the questions will be new to you, unique to your personality and app.
They are not going to ask, even that they're not going to ask about the current affairs thing parts, like to discuss, to test your opinion about the current issues. They will take such kind of questions?
They will definitely. So within the current affairs, there are three pet areas. One is economy, second is the geopolitics, and third one is the technology part. So these three are very dynamic, and any area that is dynamic in the current affairs, so they will be thoroughly testing. So that is why one economy newspaper, technology front you must be aware. Geopolitics, that's why I said on foreign daily. And Indian issues, usually they don't ask because they would have exhausted lots of questions on most of the government initiatives, legislations, policies. So they will go with these areas mostly. So all the best, and thank you for being patient and listening to the session and asking good questions. Only one girl asked so many questions. Fine. Thank you. All the best.